Hey, welcome. It is so great to have you guys joining me today. I heard this saying a little while ago, which is, Stuart, you need to have the perfect week. And I spent most of my time thinking, what is the perfect week? What is it that I need to do? What is it I need to prepare for to have a perfect week? And ultimately, I came to realize a perfect week has more of a mindset element to it than actually, well, a perfect week. You see, if you can get to the end of the week and feel accomplished, you can actually remember what you've done, how you've done it, and you've moved yourself closer to those particular goals. Well, then you're actually getting yourself closer to having that perfect week. Now, I then decided to have this conversation with a number of people out there. And really, I'd asked them the question, tell me about your perfect week. And then I really wanted to dig down what made it perfect, what did not make it perfect. And what I actually got to realize through a number of these conversations is many, when they did not have that perfect week, when they had a week that was, it was tiring, really what jumped out at me was the the actual distractions that were actually put in front of them. They were reacting to demands that were coming in. They weren't actually going ahead and doing what was more important to them. And I really started to expand on this. What is your time? What did you do in that time? Why did you allow that to actually happen? And for many, they didn't know their priorities. It was just something that they went through their day and their week almost on an autopilot type of way. They had no structure in their week. The priorities that they kind of had in the back of their mind just drifted and went in a totally different direction. And one of the big things that really came out of it was their stress levels was actually starting to increase. They could feel the pressure on them when they didn't have those priorities completed in a particular day. So that's why I wanted to talk about today in this, call it creating the perfect week. And yes, there is a formula that you can actually use to help you through this particular journey. So, the first thing that I want to ask you is a question, and I really like to jump into these particular questions. Does your current weekly schedule support your goals? Or is it fighting against them? That's really what I want to understand. Are you doing the activities that's getting you closer to your goals, or are the activities that you're doing in your week preventing you from actually achieving your goals? So I've actually seen how successful and productive individuals can have that perfect week, as much as it is in inverted commas. I took away from these discussions 3 tips that I'm going to share with you that, well, you can implement it into your day from today, by the way. You don't have to wait. You can actually sit back and go, all right, this is what I'm actually going to implement. So, what are these 3 tips that I've learned from speaking to successful and productive individuals that claim they found the solution, the secret to that perfect week? Well, the first thing that was really surprising for me was every single one of them that had these perfect weeks that were highly productive. When I asked them, what did you do? How did you do it? What was that very first thing that you put into your calendar? This is what actually surprised me. They blocked their personal time first. I was amazed. I expected them to say, well, I actually look at what needs to be done and I'll put that. No, they looked at their personal time. They'd actually jotted down in their diary, well, they've got a game to go to watch their kids play or a play to watch. On the weekends, they're having a social with a group of friends. All of this really started to get me thinking, why is it that we kind of want to set up our personal time first? And that will actually help us to become more productive, but to set up the perfect week. Well, looking deeper, think of this. When your energy is low, you're burnt out, are you able to actually do the activities that are required? And the simple answer is no. When you get to burnout and exhaustion level, you're unable to actually have the productive day. When you look at that task, doesn't matter how big or small it is, you actually feel this resistance to go, well, can I do it? Well, let me do it tomorrow. And ultimately, tomorrow becomes next week. So the big thing here is starting to block that personal time. And that amazed me when I spoke with these productive individuals. Every single one of them, the first thing that they put into play was their personal time, what they were going to do. Even if it was, as I said, picking up their kid from school, it was in their calendar. It was a priority. So that's the very first tip that was actually shared with me. And it is so true. When you give the time for your family, it re-energizes you. When you actually set time for yourself, whether you're doing a sport or a hobby, whether you're doing something with the family, when you do that, it gives you more energy. It also gives you purpose. In your productive day, you've got purpose as to why you need to do this today in order for you to be successful going forward. So that was the very first tip. And what's so easy about this is just put it into your calendar. Something that is so simple that looks after yourself, your health, your personal development, which is studying, and your personal relationships. They always come first. So look at your calendar. How can you time block your personal time before any business? Book a holiday. Book it now, in fact. Book it now for next year, next month, if you have to. But it's that personal time. When you book that, when you put that into your calendar, suddenly everything just feels like a little bit different. Now, that's not the only way to have a perfect week, because I don't want you to spend and say, well, let me make every single day a personal time. You're still going to do your professional space. But set the personal time so that you don't burn out. It's so, so important. The second, and this came out from every single one of the successful and productive individuals that I spoke with. Every single one of them always ran with this particular philosophy that I've coached many, many times. And if you want to learn more about it, jump onto my website at stuarthyslop.com, and you will actually see in the top right-hand corner, there's book a free clarity call with me, and I can help you to schedule your calendars in a way that becomes almost perfect. But the second tip that really jumped out, and this one, as I said, it's what I coach all my clients to. I use this saying, front load your week, front load your day. And really what this means, do all the tasks early in the morning. Do those tasks early in the week. And the reason for it is your energy is at the highest. But there's actually a bigger reason for it. As much as you have that energy to go ahead and do that particular activity, when you start your day completing a priority, completing a task that needs to be done, ultimately what it does is it leverages the rest of your day. You start your day with a success. You start your day in what we could call the perfect way. You're getting in, you get something done, and you start to move on to the rest of your day. It's one of the most powerful activities that you can set up, is making sure it's either early in the week or early in the day, but definitely front load your week, front load your day. Every one of the successful and productive individuals that I spoke with, they'd actually done that. Because one of the big reasons, towards the end of the day and the end of the week, we start getting a little bit fatigued. We get tired. And when that happens, we actually look at the activities and go, I don't need to do that. And we push them out and we do them next week. And ultimately, we never do it. And that actually becomes the biggest hindrance. So the second tip is schedule your priorities early in the day. take the little saying that I've shared with many of my clients, front load your day, front load your week. It's the best way to get yourself going. So when you've actually booked that personal time and now all those priorities that you know that needs to be done, you've booked them from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, starting to lighten out. Friday you still got, but it's a lot easier when you've done all that and it's in your calendar. Is that the perfect week? Well, this is where I actually went a little bit deeper. With all my clients, I'd actually ask them, give me a snapshot of your calendar. And many of them used a Google Calendar. Give me a snapshot of your calendar. And I would sit down and just have a look at that. And through my strategic insights, I suddenly got to see something. And this was something that really jumped out. They've got a lot of white spaces. Now, you might be asking, what is a white space? Well, if you go into a Google Calendar, you select that particular task, activity, event, whatever it can be, you can select it to be a color, a green, a red, a blue, etc. And then there's the white space. That typically is telling you that you've actually got nothing booked there. Now, when I've looked at calendars of individuals where they have got their calendar back to back, 8 till 9, 9 till 10, 10 to 11, and there is no white space. It is just continual of activities. I always go, then why are you not productive? And the truth is, they're actually putting too much into their particular day. The white space is the breathing room. The white space is the chance for them to re-energize themselves. And this was so apparent on the successful and productive individuals. They would set up their times from 9 until 10. They have something that's blocked. But from 9 to 9:30 was a white space. Then they'd have an activity that was from 9:30 till 10. And then there will be another white space. Between every single one of their activities, there was white space. And when I asked, why is it that you've got that white space? The answer actually was, now that makes absolute sense. You see, when you're busy with your priority, we know that there's distractions. We know there's people knocking on your door. There's emails to answer. There's messages that are coming through. You've got to find time to respond to those, call it distractions or non-priority items that still have to be done, but don't get you closer to your goals. When do they do that? In the white space. This is when they would actually take a step back, away from their desk, they would get something to drink, and they would respond, whether it's a phone call, whether it's having a quick little discussion. Ultimately, that, for me, looked like a distraction. And they said, no, it's not a distraction. What it actually does, it starts to refresh the brain. It starts you to get out of that concentrated mode, just get into a bit of a relaxed space, respond to a message or two, nothing important that's going to take you 2-3 hours to do that. You would schedule or she would schedule later in the day, but just take that time, having something to drink, having a refreshment, and then coming back at the designated time to start the next activity. You see, that white space actually started to make more sense. It started to make, well, a very productive sense. Because if we're taking every single one of our tasks, our priorities, and we're putting them back to back throughout the day, when do we get the time to respond to those emails? When do we get the time to respond to those messages and calls? When do we get the time just to go and take a little breather? You can't if you're doing everything back to back. So, looking at these particular calendars, it was almost like a golden nugget was given over to me, and something that I've shared with you is have that white space. So when we look at these 3 tips, and these are tips that you can do right now. The first one, make sure that you are putting into your calendar your personal time that does not get overlapped by anything. Make sure that you're protecting it so that you know that, well, you're actually re-energizing yourself as you're going forward. The second one, front load your week, front load your day. Make sure that you're scheduling those priorities early in the day, early in the week. So where you've got the max amount of energy, but more importantly, when you complete it, it gives you this leverage of continuity, this leverage of energy that allows you to then just go forward to the next one and the next one. And the third, which I want to say is one of the biggest secrets that even the productive and successful individuals didn't even know about. They were just doing it out of habit, is making sure they had the white space between each appointment. And this white space was generally 30 minutes. They had 30 minutes to actually just put in a break. So when you're setting up your calendars, make sure that you're doing it purposeful, but don't go and put them all back to back and thinking this is going to be a great day, because it's actually shown that it's going to overwhelm, it's going to stress. Why? Because when you get to the end of the day, you've then got a mailbox full of emails. You've got all these messages sitting on your desk, and you've got a heap of missed calls that you need to respond to. Schedule these in the actual day. So simple. And this is how we can start to put together what we'd like to refer to as the perfect week, because each one of those days, they're in your control. And when you can finish the week with each one of those days successfully ticked off, where you're not burnt out, you're not stressed, you don't have levels of anxiety, you've actually got the sense of accomplishment, you're starting to get that success every single day. And it's this momentum that will help you to start moving forward. So I asked you this question a little earlier, and I'm going to ask it to you again. Does your current weekly schedule support your goals, or is it fighting against them? Is it supporting it or fighting it? Have a look at your calendar. And really, when you look at that calendar, if you feel that it's an overwhelm, get in touch with me. Jump onto my website at stuarthyslop.com, and at the top right-hand corner, as I've said, there's a little button, book a free clarity call. This is not a sales call, by the way. This is a free clarity call. It's there to help you to gain clarity in your life so that you can start to achieve more. So make sure that you use that opportunity, book that free slot, because, hey, it could be just one question, one answer that changes your path going forward. Now, I love to end with a particular quote. And this quote I thought was pretty appropriate. You don't get more time, you get better control of the time that you have. When you start working in a perfect week where you're actually in control of it, remember, 24 hours is 24 hours. You're not going to get any more in a day. But when you don't get more time, but what you do get is better control of the time that you have. And remember, the time that you have is not only in your professional space, it's also in your personal space. So I wanted you to take one thing away from this particular session, and I want you to implement it. If it's just to book some personal time in your calendar, maybe it's to realign your actual tasks so that there's white space in your task, in your calendar. Or maybe it's just taking that task that you typically do at 3 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon and moving it to maybe a Monday or Tuesday at 8, 9, 10 o'clock so that you get it done as soon as possible. You see, it's the little tasks, those little activities that's going to make a huge difference for you to have the perfect week. Now remember, learning just creates awareness. It's the actions that you take that's going to create results. So I'm looking forward to seeing you in our next session.